I had been working security detail on Orbital Platform 17 for exactly 3 cycles when I realized that everything I thought I knew about humans was absolutely catastrophically wrong. My name is Krivax, and I am a Thorian. We are not a large species, standing roughly at what humans would call 5 feet tall, with 4 arms and a chitinous exoskeleton that makes us look, according to one particularly blunt human trader, like walking shrimp. The comparison annoyed me at first, until I tasted shrimp. Then I was just hungry and offended. Platform 17 orbits a gas giant in the outer reaches, serving as a trading hub for 17 different species. It is neutral ground, supposedly safe, where merchants and travelers can conduct business without the threat of violence. The key word there being supposedly. On this particular day, the main concourse was bustling with activity. Vendors hawked exotic goods from stalls that lined the curved walls. The air recyclers hummed steadily, mixing the scents of a dozen different atmospheres into something that smelled vaguely like burnt plastic and overripe fruit. I was making my rounds, all 4 arms crossed behind my back in what I hoped was an authoritative pose, when I first saw her. The human was tall, probably close to 6 feet, with dark skin and hair pulled back into what I later learned was called a ponytail. She wore the standard gray jumpsuit of a maintenance worker, with patches on the shoulders indicating she was part of the environmental systems crew. Nothing remarkable, really. Just another human doing another job on another platform in the vast emptiness of space. Her name tag read Mara Kinte, and she was carrying a toolbox that looked like it weighed at least 40 pounds. She walked with an easy confidence, nodding to other workers as she passed, completely unaware that she was about to become the most talked about being on the entire station. I noticed the Kreth before she did. Kreth are apex predators from a high-gravity world. They stand 7 feet tall, possess retractable claws that can slice through plasteel, and have a bite force that can crush bone like we would crush a cracker. They are also, generally speaking, not supposed to be on civilian platforms. But here is the thing about neutral trading hubs in the outer reaches. Sometimes rules are more like suggestions. This particular Kreth, whose transponder identified him as Vorik, was wanted on at least 4 worlds for assault and suspected trafficking. I had seen his file that morning. My superior officer had told me to keep an eye out but not to engage unless absolutely necessary. Kreth were dangerous. Kreth were unpredictable. And most importantly, Kreth lawsuits were expensive. Vorthak was stalking through the concourse, and the crowd parted around him like water around a shark. People know a predator when they see one, regardless of species. He was heading toward the loading docks, probably to pick up whatever illegal cargo he had waiting. Everything would have been fine, routine even, if Mara Kinte had not been walking in the exact opposite direction at the exact wrong moment. They collided at the intersection of 2 corridors. Well, collided is perhaps too gentle a word. Vorthak walked directly into Mara's path, and when she did not move fast enough for his liking, he shoved her, hard. With one clawed hand planted firmly against her shoulder, he sent her stumbling backward into a stack of cargo containers. The entire concourse went silent. I reached for my comm unit, ready to call for backup, fully expecting to witness a homicide. Humans are fragile, or so every single species database in the galaxy will tell you. They come from a low-gravity world with a thin atmosphere. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. They are soft and weak and break easily. Murray hit the cargo containers with a metallic clang that echoed through the sudden quiet. Her toolbox clattered to the floor, spilling wrenches and calibrators across the deck. For a moment she just stood there, one hand pressed against the container for balance. Vorik laughed. It was a horrible sound, like rocks grinding together in a disposal unit. "Weak little thing," he growled in station standard, his translator rendering his native clicking into something approximating words. "Should watch where you are going." That is when Mara did something that made my 3 hearts skip a beat. She smiled, not a friendly smile, not an apologetic smile. This was the kind of smile that predators wear right before they strike. It was all teeth and absolutely zero warmth. And I suddenly remembered something I had read in a xenobiology report once. Humans bare their teeth as a threat display. I had dismissed it as academic nonsense because humans smile at everything. They smile at puppies and babies and particularly nice sunsets. This was not that kind of smile. "Sorry," Mara said, her voice light and pleasant and absolutely dripping with sarcasm. I did not realize I was supposed to leap out of the way for you. Let me just check the station protocols real quick. Oh, wait. No, there is nothing here about yielding to oversized bullies with anger management issues. Several beings in the crowd made sounds that I interpreted as suppressed laughter. A Tulkin merchant actually snorted, which is impressive considering Tulkins do not have noses. Vorthak's crest flared, a clear sign of aggression in Kretha body language. He took a step toward Mara, towering over her by at least a foot. His claws extended with a soft snick sound that made my exoskeleton itch. You dare mock me? His voice dropped to a threatening rumble. I could tear you apart, human. Your kind is soft, weak, pathetic. I was already moving, pushing through the crowd, my hand on my shock baton. This was going to end badly. I needed to get between them before Vorthak decided to make an example out of her. Humans might have spread across the galaxy with surprising speed, but they had done it through intelligence and technology, not physical prowess. Everyone knew that. Everyone apparently, except Mara. She stepped forward, closing the distance instead of retreating. This surprised Vorthak enough that he actually paused mid-threat. Soft? Mara repeated, her head tilting slightly. You think we are soft? I know you are soft, Vorthak snarled. Your world is weak. 0.8 gravity. My people train in twice that. You have no claws, no fangs, no natural defenses. You are prey pretending to be predators. Mara's smile widened. You know what? You are absolutely right. We do not have claws, we do not have fangs. We do not have armor or venom or any of that fun stuff. She took another step closer. Vorak, clearly confused by this tiny creature refusing to show proper fear, took a step back. Do you know what we do have? Mara asked, her voice conversational now, like she was discussing the weather. What? Vork growled. Endurance, stubbornness, and a really, really low tolerance for assholes. What happened next occurred so fast that my compound eyes almost missed it. Vorveric, apparently done with conversation, lunged forward with one clawed hand aimed at Mara's throat. It was a killing strike, the kind of attack that would have ended most beings in a spray of blood and regret. Mara moved, not away, as any sensible being would. She moved into the attack, her left hand coming up to deflect Vorthak's arm while her right hand grabbed his wrist. She pivoted on her heel, using Vork's own momentum against him, and suddenly the 7-foot-tall apex predator was off balance and stumbling forward. Then Mara did something that made every being watching question their understanding of physics. She picked him up, not pushed, not tripped, picked him up. With her bare hands, this human who supposedly came from a weak gravity world lifted a creth that outweighed her by at least 100 pounds and was made of muscle and bad intentions. For a moment Vorak hung there in her grip, his eyes wide with shock and what might have been the first real fear he had experienced in years. Here is a fun fact about Earth, Mara said, her voice strained but steady. Our gravity, it is actually pretty standard for habitable worlds. 1.0. But you know what makes it special? She took 3 quick steps toward the edge of the platform. We were on an elevated section of the concourse, overlooking the lower market level, about 15 feet down, maybe 20. What makes it special, Mara continued, is that we evolved to be endurance hunters. We did not chase down prey with speed or claws. We just kept going. We walked prey to death. We tracked animals for days until they collapsed from exhaustion, and along the way we developed these really useful things called fast-twitch muscle fibers, levers, points, and a deep, burning spite that keeps us going long after we should have quit. Vorak was struggling now, his claws scrabbling at Mara's arms, drawing thin lines of blood. She did not let go. If anything, her grip tightened. So when you shoved me, you activated about 4 million years of evolutionary programming that says when something tries to hurt us, we hurt it back, harder. I finally reached them, my shock baton raised, shouting for Mara to stop, to let him go, to please not do whatever she was clearly about to do because the paperwork was going to be horrendous. Mara looked at me, still smiling that terrifying smile. Sorry, officer. I seem to have found some trash that needs disposing of. Then she threw him, not pushed, not dropped. She actually threw Vorkal 7 feet and 300 pounds of him off the platform. He hit the safety net 15 feet below with a sound like a bass drum being kicked by an angry giant. The net sagged, held, and then bounced him twice before settling. Vorthak lay there, wheezing and groaning and making sounds that the translator could not quite process. The entire concourse erupted. Some beings were cheering. Others were backing away from Mara like she had suddenly sprouted fangs and claws of her own. The Telkin merchant was laughing so hard he had to sit down. Somewhere in the crowd, someone started a slow clap that quickly spread. I stood there, shock baton still raised, my mouth hanging open in a way that definitely did not look authoritative. Mara calmly wiped her hands on her jumpsuit, picked up her toolbox, and looked at me with an expression of perfect innocence. "He tripped," she said. "He tripped," I repeated flatly. "Terrible case of vertigo. Happens in low-gravity environments sometimes. You should really put up warning signs." I looked at her bleeding arms where Vorak's claws had scored her skin. "You need medical attention." Mara glanced down at the scratches like she was noticing them for the first time. "I have had worse paper cuts. Some antiseptic and I will be fine. You just threw a creth off a platform. He shoved me first. Self-defense." She said it so matter-of-factly, like tossing apex predators around was just part of her daily routine. That was not self-defense. That was assault or battery. Possibly both. I am not actually sure what to call it. "How about justice?" Someone in the crowd called out. This got a round of agreement from several other beings. I rubbed my face with two of my hands, feeling the beginning of what was definitely going to be a stress-induced molt.
"If I have to file a report."
"Go ahead," Mara said. "He attacked me. I defended myself. There are at least 40 witnesses. Oh, and station security footage. You do have cameras up here, right?" I did. The footage was going to be very clear. Very, very clear. My supervisor was going to have words with me about this, probably many words. Possibly shouting. Below us, station security was helping Vorak out of the net. He was conscious but looked like he was having trouble remembering his own name. One of the medics was scanning him with a portable unit. "Fractured rib. Possible concussion. Bruised ego," the medic called up. "Nothing life-threatening. He will be fine." "See?" Mara said brightly. "Everyone is fine. I should probably get back to work, though. Environmental systems do not maintain themselves." She started to walk away. I grabbed her arm with one hand, gently but firmly. "You are not going anywhere until we sort this out," Mara sighed. "Is this going to take long?" "I have 3 air recyclers that need servicing and a coolant leak in Section 9. There was just an altercation involving an apex predator and potential deadly force." "Yes, it is going to take long. Technically he used deadly force. I used gravity. Totally different things." I was beginning to understand why humans had managed to negotiate trade agreements with species that were twice their size and 3 times as aggressive. It was impossible to argue with them. They just twisted logic until it meant whatever they wanted it to mean. My comm unit crackled. It was my supervisor, Senior Officer Thax. "Krivax, what in the name of the 7 hells is going on up there? I have reports of a human throwing someone off level 3. I looked at Mara, who was examining her fingernails like this was all very boring. "That is accurate, sir. The human was provoked by a Kreth named Vorak. There are multiple witnesses. A human threw a Kreth." Thax sounded like he was questioning his translator. "How is that possible?" "I am asking myself the same question, sir." Mora leaned in toward my comm unit. "It is called leverage and proper weight distribution. Also, he was top-heavy. Bad center of gravity." Thax was silent for a moment. "Is that the human?" "Yes, sir. Mara Kinte. Environmental Systems. I want her in my office. Now, and someone get medical down to the lower concourse to check on the Kreth." "Already done, sir. He will survive." "Of course he will survive. They always survive. It is the paperwork that kills me." "Get her down here." The comm clicked off. Mara raised an eyebrow at me. "So, your boss sounds fun. He is going to be very interested in your statement." "My statement is that a wanted criminal attacked me and I defended myself. End of story." She paused. "He is wanted, right?" "Vorak. I saw his face on the security bulletin this morning." I nodded slowly. She had seen the security bulletin. Of course she had. Humans were thorough like that. They noticed things, remembered things. It was almost as unsettling as their physical capabilities. We made our way down to the security office. Mara carrying her toolbox like nothing had happened, me trying to process what I had just witnessed. Other beings moved out of our way, some staring at Mara with new respect, others with outright fear. Word was already spreading through the station. I could hear the whispers. See the messages being transmitted through data pads and neural links. A human had defeated a Kreth in physical combat. A maintenance worker, not even a soldier or a security officer, had picked up an apex predator and thrown him like a bag of garbage. The balance of power on Platform 17 had just shifted in a way that nobody had anticipated. Senior Officer Thax was a Vorix, which meant he looked like someone had combined a bear, a lizard, and a bad attitude into one 6-foot-tall package. He sat behind his desk, his scaled hands folded in front of him, his reptilian eyes fixed on Mara with an expression I could not quite read. "Sit," he said. Mara sat. I stood beside her, suddenly feeling very small and very much like I had failed at some fundamental part of my job. "Explain to me," Thax began, his voice deceptively calm, "how a human environmental technician managed to overpower a Krith bounty hunter." "I lifted with my legs, not my back," Mara said. "Basic safety protocol." Thax's eyes narrowed. "This is not a joke, Miss Kinte." "I was not joking. That is actually how I did it." He was off balance. I got underneath his center of gravity, used his momentum against him. Physics. She shrugged. "Also, he underestimated me. People do that a lot. Because you are human," Thax said. "Because I am human," Mara agreed. "Everyone thinks we are weak, fragile, harmless. And you know what? That works in our favor. Low expectations mean high surprise factor." Thax leaned back in his chair, which creaked under his weight. "Do you have any idea how much paperwork this is going to generate? Voryak is already demanding compensation. He is claiming assault. His lawyer is claiming emotional trauma." Maras snorted. "Emotional trauma? He attacked me. I have witnesses. I have blood on my arms from where he tried to slash me open. This is textbook self-defense. You threw him off a platform. After he tried to kill me. The order of events matters here." Thax looked at me. "Is her account accurate?" I nodded. "Vork initiated contact. He shoved her first, then attacked when she responded verbally. The throw was in response to a direct threat to her life. Everything is on camera." "Show me," Thax commanded. I pulled up the security footage on the holo display. We watched the whole thing play out again, frame by frame. Vorthak's shove, Mara's sarcastic response. The lunge, the deflection, the lift, the throw. Thax watched it 3 times, his expression growing more incredulous with each viewing. That should not be possible. He finally said, "Kreth are stronger than humans, significantly stronger. The strength-to-weight ratio alone." "Strength is not everything," Mara interrupted. "Technique matters, training matters. But mostly, anger matters. I was having a really bad day before this happened, and he just gave me a convenient outlet." "A bad day," Thax repeated. "The coolant leak in Section 9. Worse than I thought. I was looking at hours of work in a confined space with toxic fumes. Then this jerk shoves me and threatens me and generally ruins what was left of my morning. So yeah, I was motivated. I could not help myself. I laughed. It came out as a chittering sound that made both Mara and Thax look at me. "Sorry," I said. "It is just, you threw an apex predator because you were having a bad day at work." Mara grinned. "When you put it that way, it does sound kind of ridiculous." "It is ridiculous," Thax said, but there was something in his voice that might have been amusement. "It is also incredibly stupid. You could have been killed." "But I was not," Mara pointed out. "He was, well, almost. He will be fine." Thax steepled his claws together. "Here is what is going to happen. I am going to review this footage. I am going to verify witness statements, and I am going to process Vork for outstanding warrants. His assault charge against you will not stand given the evidence, so I am free to go, after medical checks your injuries, and after you explain to me how a species classified as physically inferior managed to do what you just did." Mara's smile faded slightly. "We are not inferior. We are different. Every species has advantages. Yours is strength and natural armor. The Kreth have speed and claws. The Telkin have multiple brains for processing. Humans, we adapt. We learn. We take what we have and make it work. And yes, sometimes that means picking up the thing trying to hurt us and introducing it to gravity." Thax studied her for a long moment. "You know what scares me about your species? Our terrible fashion sense, your potential. You have been in space for less than a century. You have no natural advantages, no claws, no armor, no telepathy, no environmental resistances. By all accounts, you should be minor players in the galactic community. He gestured at the frozen image on the holo display, and yet here you are, throwing Krith off platforms and making it look easy. It was not easy, Mara said. My shoulders are going to hurt tomorrow. But I get your point. Humans are good at exceeding expectations. That, Fax said quietly, is exactly what scares me. He dismissed us shortly after with instructions for Mara to report to medical and for me to finish my shift. As we walked through the corridors, Mara seemed completely unfazed by everything that had happened. So, she said casually, this happen often. Criminals attacking people on the concourse? No, I admitted. Usually they are more subtle. Vorthak must have been in a hurry. Or stupid, probably both. She shifted her toolbox from one hand to the other. Thanks for not stunning me with your baton back there. I considered it.
Appreciate the restraint.
She paused at an intersection. I really do need to get to that coolant leak. Think your boss will be upset if I skip medical. I think he will have my shell if you skip medical. Mara sighed dramatically. Fine. Medical first. Then I save the station from toxic fume exposure. My life is so glamorous. We parted ways at the medical bay entrance. I watched her go, this human who had just rewritten everything I thought I knew about her species. She walked with the same easy confidence as before, like nothing remarkable had happened at all. Word had definitely spread. As I continued my patrol, I noticed beings watching me, whispering. Several asked me directly if it was true that a human had thrown Vorkak. I confirmed it each time, and each time I watched their expressions shift from disbelief to shock, to a kind of wary respect. By the end of my shift, the story had grown. In some versions, Mara had thrown Vorthak 50 feet. In others, she had fought off multiple Kreth. One particularly creative Telkin claimed she had breathed fire and sprouted wings. The truth, I reflected, was impressive enough without embellishment. I was filing my end-of-shift report when my comm unit buzzed. It was a general station alert. Another incident. Docking Bay 7. Multiple suspects. Request for all available security. I grabbed my gear and ran, wondering what fresh chaos the universe had decided to throw at Platform 17 today. When I arrived at Docking Bay 7, I found a scene of controlled pandemonium. 3 beings were attempting to force their way past dock security, shouting about delayed shipments and unauthorized holds. Standard smuggler behavior when their cargo gets flagged. What was not standard was seeing Mara Kinte standing between the smugglers and the dockmaster, her arms crossed, her expression calm. Absolutely not, she was saying. That ship does not leave until the environmental safety check is complete. I do not care if you are late for your delivery window. One of the smugglers, a Roccan with mottled green skin and too many teeth, loomed over her. You are just a maintenance worker. You do not have authority to hold my ship. Mara did not move, did not flinch. Actually, according to Station Regulations Section 12.4, any environmental systems technician has the authority to halt departures if there is a safety concern, and your ship is venting coolant at an alarming rate. So yeah, you are staying put. The Roccan moved closer, trying to intimidate her with his size. I could just leave anyway. You could try, Mara agreed. But I have already locked down your external couplings. Your ship is literally bolted to my dock. So unless you want to rip your own airlock off, I suggest you sit tight and let me do my job. I moved through the crowd, ready to intervene, but something made me pause. The other smugglers were backing away from Mara. They were looking at her with recognition. A thin Vorelian with silver skin tugged at the Roccan's sleeve. Tal, that is the human. The one who threw Vorak. The Roccan froze. What? The Kreth. This morning. She picked him up and threw him off level 3. I watched the Roccan's aggression drain away like water through a sieve. He took a step back from Mara, his too many teeth clicking together nervously. I did not realize, he stammered. Mara's expression did not change. Now, are you going to wait patiently while I fix your coolant leak and make sure your ship will not explode and kill everyone on this platform? Or do we need to continue this conversation? We will wait, the Roccan said quickly. Take your time. No rush. Safety first. Good choice. Mara looked at me, nodded once, then walked past the smugglers toward their ship, toolbox in hand. The Roccan watched her go, then looked at me. Is it true? She really threw a Kreth? I thought about denying it. Thought about explaining the circumstances, the self-defense angle, the sheer unlikelihood of it all. Instead, I just nodded. saw it myself. The smugglers exchanged glances, then settled down to wait, suddenly very cooperative and very, very quiet. I realized something important in that moment. Mara Kinte had not just defended herself this morning. She had sent a message to every being on Platform 17. Humans might look soft. They might seem weak. But word this them at your own risk. And as I stood there in Docking Bay 7 watching a human maintenance worker calmly fix a coolant leak while 3 smugglers waited in respectful silence, I could not help but wonder what other surprises humanity had in store for the galaxy. Something told me we were all about to find out. The next 3 days on Platform 17 were strange in ways I could not quite articulate. The incident with Vorthak had become legend, growing with each retelling until I half expected someone to claim Mara had bench-pressed a shuttle. The reality was impressive enough. But beings love a good story more than they love the truth. What changed was subtle but unmistakable. Humans had always been present on the platform, working various jobs from engineering to food service to administration. Before Vorthak they were background noise, polite, competent, mostly ignored. After Vorthak, people noticed them. Really noticed them. I watched a Chronicles dock worker step aside to let a human cargo handler pass, murmuring something that sounded like an apology. I saw a group of Telkin traders actually listen when a human market analyst gave her opinion on grain futures. Small moments, quiet shifts, but added up to something bigger. Respect, or maybe fear. With some species, those two things looked remarkably similar. Mara herself seemed oblivious to the change. She went about her duties with the same casual efficiency, fixing things, maintaining systems, occasionally making sarcastic comments that left maintenance bots confused and coworkers laughing. I crossed paths with her twice more during my patrols. Both times she greeted me cheerfully, asked about my day, and continued on like she had not fundamentally altered the social dynamics of an entire orbital platform. It was on the 4th day that everything went sideways again. And this time the problem was much, much bigger than one angry Kreth. I was in the security office reviewing surveillance footage from the commercial sector when the alarm started. Not the polite chiming that indicated a minor system malfunction. This was the harsh, insistent wailing that meant genuine emergency. Every being on the platform knew that sound. It meant danger. It meant move now. Ask questions later. My comm unit exploded with chatter. Thax's voice cut through the noise, sharp and commanding. All security personnel to Docking Bay 12 immediately. We have a situation. Repeat, all personnel to Bay 12. This is not a drill. I grabbed my shock baton and ran. Other security officers converged from different sections, our shells and scales and various appendages, all moving with the same urgent purpose. Whatever was happening in Bay 12, it was bad enough to warrant a full response. When I arrived, I understood why. A ship sat in the docking cradle, and it was not supposed to be there. The vessel was Corvan design. All harsh angles and aggressive plating. The kind of ship that screamed military even without the weapon arrays. Corvan vessels were rare in neutral space. Corvans preferred to stay in their own territory, expanding through conquest rather than trade. Seeing one here was like finding a loaded weapon in a children's playground. Worse, the airlock was open. 4 Corvan soldiers stood on the deck, their powered armor making them look like walking tanks. They were not pointing weapons at anyone yet, but the threat was implicit. Behind them I could see more movement inside the ship. How many more, I could not tell. Thax stood at the front of our security line, his posture rigid. You are in violation of platform neutrality protocols. State your business. The lead Corvine, identified by the red markings on his armor, stepped forward. His translator rendered his voice as a harsh metallic rasp. We are here for a fugitive, a human named Mara Kinte. She is wanted for crimes against the Corvan sovereignty. You will turn her over to us immediately. My 3 hearts simultaneously tried to stop beating. Impossible, Thax said flatly. This platform is neutral territory. We do not honor extradition requests from belligerent powers, and the Corvan sovereignty has not filed proper documentation through standard legal channels. We do not need documentation, the Corvan said. We have jurisdiction over our own criminals. The human attacked one of our citizens without provocation. She will answer for her crimes. The human you are referring to, Thax said, his voice cold enough to frost the deck plating, defended herself against assault by a wanted criminal. The incident was witnessed, recorded and thoroughly documented. If you want to file a complaint, The proper procedure is— We are not interested in procedures. The Corvin's armor whined as he moved closer. You have 10 minutes to produce the human. After that we will retrieve her ourselves. Interference will be considered an act of hostility against the Corvin sovereignty. This was bad. This was spectacularly, catastrophically bad. The Corvins were not bluffing. They had sent a military ship into neutral space, which meant they were already committed to breaking every treaty and agreement that kept the outer reaches from descending into chaos. They wanted Mara, and they were willing to start a diplomatic incident to get her. The question was why? Why would the Corvins care about one human maintenance worker? What made her important enough to risk this? Then I remembered something. Vorik was Krith, but he worked for someone. The security file had mentioned suspected employers, criminal organizations, trafficking networks. One of those organizations had Corvin ties. Of course, Mara had not just embarrassed a bounty hunter. She had humiliated someone connected to Corvin interests. And Corvins had very specific ideas about honor and retribution. The Sage was speaking into his comm unit, probably calling for diplomatic support, maybe even military backup if any was close enough to matter. The Corvians did not move. They just stood there in their armor, counting down the minutes, confident in their overwhelming advantage. 4 armored soldiers might not sound like much, but Corvin battle suits were legendary. Energy shields, built-in weapons systems, strength augmentation that made even Kreth look weak. Each soldier was effectively a one-being army. 4 of them could tear through our entire security force without breaking a sweat. I had to find Mara. I had to warn her. Maybe she could hide or escape, or I did not know what. But I had to try. I slipped away from the security line, moving quickly through the corridors. My comm unit told me that Mara was currently logged into a maintenance access tunnel in Section 4, Environmental Systems. Of course, she was probably elbow-deep in air filters, completely unaware that an alien military force was about to start a war over her. I found her exactly where the system said she would be, inside a narrow access corridor that reeked of recycled air and cleaning solvents. She had her toolbox open, various instruments spread around her, and she was humming something that sounded vaguely musical. Mara, I said, probably too loudly given the acoustics of the tunnel. She jumped, banging her head on a low-hanging conduit. Ah! Krivax! You scared the hell out of me! She rubbed her head, grimacing. What is wrong? You look like you have seen a ghost. Do Thorians even have ghosts? We need to leave. Now there is no time to explain. Just grab your tools and follow me. Mara's expression shifted from annoyed to serious in an instant. She started gathering her equipment with practiced efficiency. What happened? Another incident. Worse. The Corvins are here. They want you. They claim you attacked one of their citizens. Mara froze, a wrench halfway to her toolbox. Vorak was Corvin. Vorak worked for Corvin interests. Apparently you embarrassed the wrong people. I embarrassed a lot of people. You need to be more specific. She snapped the toolbox shut. How many Corvins? 4 soldiers in powered armor. Maybe more on the ship. Mara whistled, low and impressed. They sent actual military. For me, I am either really dangerous or someone is massively overreacting. This is not funny. I am not laughing. I am processing. There is a difference. She stood, slinging her toolbox over one shoulder. Okay, where do we go? Please tell me you have a plan better than hide in the air ducts. I did not have a plan. I had panic and a vague sense that running was better than standing still. We could get you to a ship, get you off the platform before they shoot down any ship that tries to leave, because that is definitely what they will do. Mara started walking, not away from docking bay 12 but in a direction that made no sense to me. Come on, we do not have much time. Where are we going? To solve this problem before it becomes everyone's problem. I hurried after her, my shorter legs struggling to match her pace. You cannot seriously be thinking of confronting them. They are Corvin soldiers, in battle armor. You threw one Kreth. This is not the same thing. You are absolutely right. This is not the same thing at all. She turned a corner heading toward the main concourse. Which is why I am not going to throw them. Then what are you going to do? Mara smiled, that terrifying smile again. I am going to talk to them. Talk to them? They are not here to talk. They are here to take you by force. Then I guess I better be really persuasive. She picked up her pace, moving with purpose now. Listen, Krivax. I appreciate you trying to help, but you need to trust me on this. Humans are very good at talking our way out of problems. It is kind of our thing. Your thing is also getting into problems in the first place. Also true. We are complicated like that. We emerged onto the main concourse to find it nearly empty. Word had spread fast. Civilians were sheltering in place, waiting to see how this played out. Smart beings stayed away from Corvin military actions. Very smart beings left the system entirely. Mara walked down the center of the concourse like she owned it. I followed, feeling increasingly like I was watching someone march toward their own execution. Docking Bay 12 was ahead. I could see the security cordon, Thax and his officers standing in a line, shock batons ready but knowing they were hopelessly outmatched. The Corvins had not moved from their position by their ship. They were patient, confident, inevitable. Mara walked right up to the security line. The Vex saw her and his eyes widened. Kinte, what are you doing here? You need to evacuate. With respect, sir, I think I need to be exactly here. She turned to face the Corvins. I am Mara Kinte. I understand you wanted to talk to me. The lead Corvin tilted his helmeted head. You are the one who attacked our associate. Your associate attacked me first. I defended myself. That is not a crime. You humiliated a being under our protection. You dishonored our organization. That requires retribution. Retribution? Mara's eyebrows rose. He shoved me, tried to claw my throat out, and I stopped him from doing worse. If anyone dishonored your organization, it was him for loathing a fight he started. The Corvin took a step forward. His armor servos whined. Semantics. You will come with us. You will answer for your actions before our tribunal. This is not negotiable. Everything is negotiable, Mara said calmly. That is literally what negotiation means. But I have a better idea. How about instead of dragging me off to some kangaroo court, you tell your bosses that they need to pick better associates? Because if Vork is representative of Corvin standards, your whole organization has serious quality control issues. The silence that followed was absolute. Several security officers made sounds that might have been suppressed panic. Thax looked like he was calculating how many pieces Mara was about to be blown into. The Corvin's armor plates shifted. I recognized it as an aggressive posture. You dare insult the Corvin's sovereignty. I am insulting one criminal who happened to work for you. If you want to take that as an insult to your entire civilization, that says more about you than it does about me. This was insane. This was suicide by words. I wanted to grab Mara and run, but I was frozen in place, watching this human verbally spar with beings who could vaporize her without effort. The Corvin reached for something on his armor. A weapon. This was it. This was how it ended. Then Mara did something unexpected. She laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a frightened giggle, a genuine, amused laugh that echoed through the docking bay. You know what the funny thing is? She said, still smiling. You came all this way, broke about 17 different treaties, risked a diplomatic incident with every species that uses this platform, all because your pride got hurt. And you think that makes you look strong, but from where I am standing, it makes you look weak. The Corvin froze. Weak? Terrified. Actually, you are so scared of what it means that a human beat one of your guys that you had to come here with guns and armor and threats. Because if you admit that I won fair and square, then you have to admit that maybe, just maybe, Corvins are not as superior as you like to think. I could feel the tension in the air thick enough to choke on. Every being in that docking bay was waiting for the explosion, the violence, the inevitable end to this insane confrontation. The Corvin leader stood perfectly still for what felt like an eternity. Then he spoke, his voice quiet and somehow more dangerous than when he had been making threats. You are either very brave or very stupid. I prefer to think of myself as pragmatic. You want retribution? Fine. Challenge me. Right here. Right now. No weapons. No armor. Just you and me. If you win, I go with you quietly. If I win, you leave and never come back. Mara. No. Doc stepped forward. You cannot. Yes, I can. It is called trial by combat. Vernons respect that, right? Honorable combat to settle disputes? Or was all that talk about honor just marketing? The Corvin's helmet turned slightly, looking back at his companions. They were conferring, probably over an internal comm channel. Finally, he turned back to Mara. You would fight me without any advantages? No tricks? No weapons? Just me and whatever I can do with what I have got. which, fair warning, is apparently more than people expect. The Corvan made a sound that his translator interpreted as laughter. Very well, we accept your challenge, but understand this, when I break you, when you are lying broken on this deck, you will not get mercy. You will come with us. You will face our justice. And you will learn what happens when lesser beings challenge their betters. Okay. First of all, you really need to work on your trash talk. That was like 8 cliches stacked in a trench coat. Second, you might want to take off that armor. Or is the big, strong Corvan scared to fight someone half his size without technological help? I watched in horror and fascination as the Corvan began removing his armor. Piece by piece, the battlesuit came off, revealing the being underneath. Corvans were massive, easily 7.5 feet tall, with thick muscle and bone ridges that served as natural armor. They evolved on a high-gravity world, which made them dense and powerful. Without the armor, this Corvan still outweighed Mara by probably 200 pounds and had reach advantages that seemed insurmountable. Mara stretched, rolling her shoulders and neck. She kicked off her boots. Station regulations say I should probably warm up first. Health and safety, you know. Mock all you want, the Corvan growled. It will not save you. A circle formed around them. Security officers, dock workers, even some civilians who had crept closer to watch. Everyone knew this was historic. Stupid, insane, probably fatal, but historic. The Corvan lunged first, moving with surprising speed for something so large. Mara sidestepped, letting him pass, then delivered a quick strike to his kidney area as he went by. He barely seemed to notice. He spun, faster than I expected, his arm sweeping out in a backhand that would have decapitated a smaller being. Mara ducked under it, stepped inside his guard, and punched him in the throat. The Corvan staggered back, making a choking sound. Fun fact, Mara said, circling now, her movements fluid and controlled. You know what humans are really good at? Adaptation. We studied every species we met, learned their strengths, their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities. Corvans have thick skin and heavy bones, but your throat, still soft tissue, still needs to breathe. The Corvan charged again, this time more carefully. He grabbed for Mara, trying to use his size and strength to end this quickly. Mara twisted, using some kind of joint lock that I did not understand, but that made the Corvan's arm bend in ways it clearly did not want to go. He roared, swinging his free arm. The blow caught Mara in the ribs, sending her flying backward. She hit the deck hard, rolled, came up breathing hard but still on her feet. Okay, she gasped. That one hurt. Good hit. The Corvan advanced, confident now. He had landed a solid blow. Mara was injured. This was almost over, except Mara was smiling again. She waited until he was close, then dropped low, sweeping his legs. The Corvan, top-heavy and overconfident, went down like a falling tree. Before he could recover, Mara was on him, one knee on his chest, her forearm pressed against his throat. Here is another fun fact, she said, her voice strained but steady. Humans are endurance hunters. We do not give up. We do not quit. You can hit us, hurt us, knock us down. We get back up, every single time, because that is what we evolved to do. We survive. We adapt. We overcome. The Corvan struggled, but Mara had leverage and position. She pressed harder against his throat, cutting off air. Not enough to kill, but enough to make a point. Yield, she said, or I keep going. Your choice. The Corvan's struggles weakened. His hand, raised to strike her, slowly lowered. He tapped the deck 3 times. Universal signal for submission. Mira immediately released him, rolling away and standing up. She offered him her hand. Good fight. The Corvan stared at her hand like it was a poisonous serpent. Then slowly he took it. Mara helped him to his feet. You fought with honor, the Corvan said, and his translator actually conveyed something like respect. I have underestimated your species. Everyone does. That is what makes it fun. Mara winced, holding her ribs. So, we done here. Because I really need medical attention and you need to explain to your superiors why you came all this way for nothing. The Corvan looked at his companions, then back at Mara. We are done. The matter is settled. You have proven yourself worthy of respect. Great. And hey, maybe next time someone from your organization has a problem with someone, you could try filing a proper complaint instead of showing up with warships. Just a suggestion. The Corvan actually laughed. It sounded like grinding rocks, but it was definitely laughter. You are unusual, Mara Kente. Your species is unusual. Perhaps we have been too quick to judge. Perhaps you have. Humans have a saying. Do not judge a book by its cover. Or in this case, do not judge a species by its lack of natural weapons. The Corvins began putting their armor back on. The tension in the docking bay slowly drained away, replaced by a kind of stunned disbelief. Mara had done it again. She had talked her way into a fight, won the fight, and somehow turned enemies into something approaching allies. As the Corvin ship disengaged from the dock and departed, Fax approached Mara. That was the most reckless, stupid, insane thing I have ever witnessed. Thank you. It was also brilliant. Completely brilliant. He shook his scaled head. Medical. Now. And then you are writing a very detailed report about Corvin combat techniques, because apparently you know more about fighting them than our entire security database. Can I write the report after I sleep for about 12 hours? Because I think I broke a rib. Maybe 2. Fair enough. Fax looked at me. Krivax, escort her to medical. Make sure she actually goes this time. I nodded, still processing what I had just witnessed. As we walked toward the medical bay, Mara limping slightly, I had to ask, how did you know that you could beat him? That he would honor the challenge? Mara shrugged, then winced at the movement. I did not for sure, but I knew that doing nothing meant definitely losing. So I did something. Sometimes that is all you can do. Take your shot and hope for the best. You could have been killed. Could have been killed when Vorthak attacked me too. Could be killed every day just living in space where a million things can go wrong. But you know what? I am still here. Still breathing. Still fixing air recyclers and apparently beating up aliens who underestimate me. We reached medical. The doctor on duty, a Fenrix with too many eyes and not enough patience, took one look at Mara and sighed. Let me guess. You got in a fight. It was mutual combat. Totally sanctioned. Ask security. I am sure it was. Examination table. Now, as the doctor began running scans, I stood by the door thinking about everything that had happened. In less than a week, one human had fundamentally changed how beings on this platform viewed her entire species. She had shown that humans were not weak, not fragile, not something to be dismissed or underestimated. 3 broken ribs, the doctor announced. Multiple contusions. Strained shoulder. Nothing life-threatening but definitely painful. Mara would be on light duty for a week. Light duty, Mara repeated. Does that mean I can skip the nastier repairs? It means you do not lift heavy objects or get into fights with Corvin soldiers. Well, there goes my weekend plans. I left medical shaking my head. The next day I filed my reports. The day after that, platform operations returned to normal. The story spread. Of course, Mara Kinte, the human who had beaten a Kraith and a Korth and a Corvin in the same week. Shops started selling commemorative shirts. Someone made a holographic game. It was absurd, but it was also meaningful, because something had shifted in the outer reaches. Humans had always been present, but now they were noticed, respected, sometimes feared. Other species started paying attention to human workers, listening to human opinions, treating them as equals rather than clever newcomers. I ran into Mara one last time during my shift, about 2 weeks after the Corvin incident. She was back at work, fixing something in the environmental systems, humming that same tune I had heard before. Hey Krivax, she called out when she saw me. How is security life treating you? Quieter since you have been on light duty. Much quieter. Boring. You mean, I like boring. Boring is safe. Mara laughed. Fair enough. But you know what? Boring does not make good stories. And stories matter. They shape how people see the world, how they see each other. A month ago, most beings on this platform thought humans were soft. Now they think twice. You did that. You changed their minds. I just showed them what humans can do when pushed. The rest? She shrugged. The rest is just people realizing that first impressions can be wrong. That weakness and strength come in different forms. That the beings you dismiss might surprise you if you give them a chance. I nodded slowly. We have a saying. The smallest shell can hold the fiercest spirit. I like that. Mind if I borrow it? Be my guest? We stood there for a moment, comfortable in the silence. Then Mara's comm unit beeped. Another repair job. Another system needing maintenance. Duty calls, she said. Stay safe out there, Krivex. You too, Mara. Try not to start any more diplomatic incidents. No promises, but I will try. I watched her go. This human who had taught an entire platform that appearances could be deceiving, that the beings you underestimate might just throw you off a platform or beat you in combat or talk their way out of an impossible situation. As I continued my patrol, I thought about humanity's place in the galaxy. They were still newcomers, still learning, still adapting to a universe full of beings stranger and stronger than themselves. But they had something that many older species had lost. They had the audacity to try, the stubbornness to keep going, the creativity to find solutions where others saw only problems. And sometimes, when pushed, they had the strength to push back harder than anyone expected. Platform 17 continued its operations. Ships came and went, traders bargained, travelers rested, and somewhere in the environmental systems, a human named Mara Kinte hummed while she worked, fixing air recyclers and occasionally reminding the galaxy that humans were full of surprises. I would never underestimate them again. And after the stories spread, after the hollows and the games and the commemorative shirts, I suspected very few beings would make that mistake either. Humans had arrived in the galaxy, and the galaxy, whether it realized it yet or not, was never going to be quite the same.